Alrighty, thank you guys again for being here. Hopefully you're all ready to go. And I just wanted to introduce Kenda a little bit, share some information about her. And then Darren is just going to do a prayer and just give a little bit of information as to why we're doing this specific training with Kenda and what we asked her to do. So Kenda grew up in Saskatchewan, as with Darren, I'm guessing. See, not with Darren so much, okay, but in the same province, okay. She's married to Darcy Reimer, who's Darren's brother. They have 4 kids, all in their 20s. She's been a part of pastoring a few churches in a number of roles, but particularly with children and youth. She has a Master's of Divinity, majoring in counseling, and was in private practice for a number of years, and then on staff as the counselor at Duncan Christian School. She's currently a spiritual director and loves helping people discover a deeper sense of God's love for them and to fall more in love with Him no matter what life holds for us. So we're really excited to have you here. Thank you for coming. Maybe we can give her a little hand there. Thank you. And I'll pass it to Darren, who then can pass it on to Kenda.
All right, thanks. This is the first time we're doing the mic thing, so hopefully it works out. I just want to say some of the reasons why we're doing this. I think we had a bit of a challenge. You heard me mention JJ earlier. Well, JJ ripped the mirrors off a car. It was a day that he was quite upset. And he went out, unbeknownst to us. I think some other youth saw it. And he went out and just completely ripped them off. And we found out it was a visitor to the ARIA who owned the car. And we had some interactions with her, and we decided to pay her deductible. So everything got settled, everything got figured out. But she decided not to press charges. And as a result, that's kind of not besides the point. We would have done this anyway, but we wanted to, because it happened here under our kind of, under our leadership or our space, we felt like we should do something about it. So we asked JJ to do a number of hours of work, community service, so to speak. And so when he comes here, he's kind of supposed to do some work. Yesterday he came here, and before we could say anything, he says, "I'm going outside to sweep the leaves." Like he already knows now that when he comes here, and that's not always the way it is, but he knows now that he's supposed to clean up. And that's kind of built in now. So I think that's kind of neat. That's a success story. But it's because of that, and because of some differences in terms of our staff. I don't know so much volunteers, but more among our staff as far as how do we deal with individuals who come into the space who are difficult, who not they're oppositional. Anyway, I'll let Kenda communicate what she's prepared and give us the lowdown on. But we felt this is an important subject to discuss. And so that's one of the reasons why we asked Kenda to come, but also because she's got experience herself, and I think she has a lot to bring to the table. Before you come, Kenda, do you mind if I pray for you? Let's pray. Thank you, God, for this morning. Thank you for the time that we have to get together. And I pray this would be a learning time for all of us. Bless Kenda as she has prepared what she's prepared. Help us to learn and help us to know how we can best apply what we hear today to the work that we do. For the betterment of the youth and for your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Let's welcome Kenda.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you. So that was a lovely intro. But the thing that probably helps me the most in this area is the parenting side, having raised 4 kids, and more specifically, our youngest is adopted. We adopted him when he was 8, and have learned a lot in navigating life with him. He's now 20, and the fun continues. So that's where a lot of the knowledge and stuff kind of had to come into practice. And so I hope that some of the things I've learned along the way can be helpful to you. But also, some of you have been doing this a long time, and your depth of resources might be bigger than you think they are, especially in order to help some people that might be newer. One of the things that I'll kind of want to start with is, are any of you Jays fans? Did you watch the Jays game last night? When the World Series, yeah, exactly. That's us too. So yeah. And one of the things that really stood out about the game last night that everybody kept talking about was their teamwork, was how they worked so well together and how they relied on the strengths of the other rather than needing to be the hero, and how that enabled them to do what they did. And in a way, that's kind of one of the things that it's that can really benefit you guys too. And I know it's hard because all of you work different times. Like, I just realized that some of you have never even met because you work on different days, and so that can be tricky. But trying to build that sense of team with the people you see regularly, with the staff and volunteers you regularly work with, can be a huge support in dealing with the challenging youth that come along. Because I don't know what went on for you as you were hearing Darren tell about JJ, but I know for myself, I hear that and I instantly feel the pressure go up. Just like, oh yeah, what would you do? Anticipating them walking through the door. How's this going to be? How am I going to respond? Am I going to be the one that has to enforce this? Is somebody else going to do this? And you start anticipating the tension or the reaction. And so that's kind of point one, is kind of know yourself. Pay attention to what goes on for you when a kid like JJ or anyone comes in. What goes on for you? Do you anticipate the conflict? And if you do, how do you anticipate dealing with it? Are you already going through in your head? Are you, for me, I'm a huge avoider. So I duck and hide as much as possible. But then if I can't hide, then look out, because then it's full on anger. So, but knowing myself, knowing what I do in a conflict situation has really, really helped as I work with my son, with my other three, with working in a school with other kids, knowing what my triggers are and what I can do to stay grounded in a potentially difficult situation. And part of that is knowing when to call in for help. So if I've already had a difficult day, knowing that my emotional tank is this deep when normally it's this deep, knowing that going in is really, really helpful. And then having a plan. What do I do when I have days like this and then I'm going to the youth center and I'm going to be interacting with teens? How do I regulate? How do I and what's going to work for me so that I can be in the space? And maybe this is a day where I talk to the other staff and say, you know what? If I can spend the first half hour just doing something that is mindless and then I'll engage, that would really help me transition. So again, that's that teamwork aspect. You're all going to come from your life into this, carrying your life and knowing what's going on for you, but also hopefully building a team of trust so that you can spell each other off. And so that, you can also be your best. So think about how conflict was handled in your own family. What was your role growing up when parents were fighting or fighting with your siblings? What did you do? That's probably your propensity. And There will be, if you haven't already experienced it, there will be people, and it might be other volunteers, it might be staff, it will be the teens. Somebody will push your button, they will trigger you, their stuff hits your stuff, and being aware of that is really important. And having your own plan, knowing what you do to self-regulate is important. And also, so think about, what are your strengths? What are you good at? And maybe you're good at engaging and keeping your emotions out of the way, and they can do whatever and you're fine. Or maybe you're really good at that heart connection. And but knowing what you're good at and what your challenges are. And that's a growing thing. You're never going to know yourself fully, but opportunities like this, when you're working with people, are huge opportunities for self-awareness and for growing in that. And so another question to ask is, what does being compassionate mean to you? Different people will have different answers to that. Some people will naturally push against the rules. If you tell them this, they will go that. And that's not just the teens. There are times when I do that. And so recognizing what my propensity is in that as well helps with the team to know, for example, if Darren is saying, this needs to be done and I want you to do it. I don't know how you do that. Yeah. But if I know my initial reaction is going to be absolutely not, and just kind of like, who are you to tell me what to do? If that's my normal reaction, knowing that that's what it is, and finding grace for myself to find a different way and to respond in a way. Knowing that stuff really helps with the team and enables you to give grace to each other and to yourself, and builds a more cohesive team. And some people are rule followers, and they often like to make sure that others are doing the same. And again, knowing that about yourself or about somebody else, again, enables you to have grace for them. And often in organizations like this, you have kind of two kinds of people. This is the extremes, of course, and nothing, anyway. There's the rule followers, and it has to be this way, and it always has to be this way, and everybody needs to do it this way because this is the best way. And then you have the people who are like, but there's no heart in that. How can we care for people when it's all, we have to follow this? And there can be a lot of tension over that. And so again, recognizing what goes on for you in that and how other people are different, and it can both be compassion. It can both be driven from a place of compassion. And so one of the ideas, or I hear this often, especially in organizations where you're working with people, is that it's like compassion over rules. And I kind of like to twist or shift it a little bit, because you've just had a whole thing about boundaries and why the rules and stuff are needed. And so instead, if boundaries or rules, and a lot of the teens that are coming here probably have challenges with boundaries and rules and following instructions, but seeing rules and boundaries as a way of showing compassion. It's not either or. They're actually needed in order to show compassion. And so you guys know the students well. You probably have a really good idea of why boundaries are important, why the rules are important. And so just quickly, why have all of this stuff that Tracy just mentioned? What's the point? Why do you need the boundaries and the rules?
Go ahead.
Oh no, please.
I mean, just keep it safe for everybody.
Yeah.
And if we don't have any, what's kind of like what's happening in society today, we're not having rules, we're not having expectations. I work in the school system, and we've lowered the bar so low that nobody has any expectations of anybody.
Right.
And if you don't do that, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
We had that back at the hospital about 10 years ago when people were getting hurt.
Yeah.
That stuff was getting wrecked.
Right. Yeah.
I think that having the ability to explain your own boundaries and show those boundaries from, a space of like, we have these rules for a reason is helpful for people who have a difficult time actually setting them themselves. So
Totally.
if you've got like youth who are constantly having boundaries pushed on them, like people are crossing the line all the time, it's helpful to see someone who's doing that. And they can go like, okay, I know how to, I can do just like this person. And for people who are pushing boundaries, it gives them, a kind of a confrontation of being like, you can't, sorry.
Yeah.
And there's consequences to this. There's a lot of people, youth and stuff, who will push boundaries and they don't understand that that's not how you build a relationship. Parents push boundaries, they push boundaries, they don't realize relationships are based off of a, cohesion. So it's a really great way to be a role model of a healthy life.
Absolutely. And for a lot, like you said, probably every teen that walks through that door has had their boundaries walked all over. And that's the life they know. And they only know survival. And so as you model that, you're modeling healthier life. You're modeling that this is possible, and that this is important for safety and for themselves. And it gives, as a staff, it gives you security to have something to fall back on, because then that brings to the next thing: consistency. How is consistency important? I mean, in general, but particularly for these youth. Why?
I remember when we used to charge $1 for each item of clothing youth wanted on the shelf, and youth got used to that. And if they couldn't pay for it, they could do a little job. And so they would get. I remember a girl named Kat bought some work boots, and she was so happy she got them for $1. She needed the work boots. So yeah, we used to do that. But then one day we decided to stop doing that because our bookkeeper didn't. We had trouble with the books. So our bookkeeper put an end to that. And what's his name?
Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle was a bookkeeper. But this young man came and he noticed that the sign was gone, and he was upset. What do you mean it's for free? No, I think it was when we instituted the $1. And he was used to getting it for free, and now he had to pay, and he was so upset. He noticed it right away. That was Julian Peterson. He was very upset. The sudden little change he noticed, and he wanted to voice his opinion about that. So they do get used to routine. Yeah. They get used to if Sunday night someone said we're playing pool, where's Cello? Because he's here on Sundays, so he was used to that Cello being there around the pool table. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so why is that important for them?
One of the things that they teach us in school is that, it kind of goes back to the gift giving and stuff. It's sometimes can cross boundaries if you give gifts or take gifts, but consistency is a great way to not only build relationships, but also kind of bring down their nervous system. If when, a youth who's in fight or flight all the time comes in and they see the same people and they see the same stuff, they expect the same kind of thing, then they're able to kind of go into a space where you see people sleeping all the time here, and they're able to open up and they're able to feel comfortable to make friends and feel like their life is manageable, rather than continuously having, if I'm going to walk in here, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Who's going to be there, and how am I going to get hurt? So consistency not only builds that relationship, but I know this person's going to be here and they're going to show up for me, but also, this is where I know things are going to be a certain way.
Yeah.
So it's a safe space.
Yeah. And that's for everyone. but even more so for teens and children that haven't had consistency. They have had people telling them what they should do and shouldn't do their whole lives. They've been told where they're going and what they're doing, and they have very little say. And so knowing that when what the rules are and that they will be enforced actually helps them calm down. It helps the place feel safe, even if they're fighting it. It creates the, and not just for the one that's pushing against it, but for all the others that are watching it happen. They actually go, oh, this is what happens. This is what happens. And over again, it just, they start to know this behavior gets this reaction. If I do this, this happens. And it brings a sense, something predictable, as little as it can be, into their lives. And it also teaches them integrity, because what you say is what you do. So that you're modeling something and creating this safe space. Also, they're all survivors, and they're highly skilled at protecting themselves and getting their needs met. And they know how to navigate anything in order to get what they want. And one of the things that we learned pretty quick was that right and wrong aren't moral for a lot of people that come from a challenging background. Right and wrong is determined based on what works. So if I do this behavior and I get the desired result for me, that was right. If I do this behavior and it didn't work to get me the desired behavior I want, then it's wrong. And so, especially for kids that are neurodivergent, that have trouble with more complex thought, it is that simple for them. So trying to teach them morals and ethics or relying on some sort of moral compass, it probably isn't there. And instead, and again, that's where the boundaries and consistency really helps, because it becomes their moral compass. Because the wrong ways don't work here. So then they have to do the right way, because the right way actually gets them the things they need. And they're going to fight it, and they're going to push, and they're going to do all kinds of things to see if that's actually real. But part of that is testing you. It's testing, is this relationship actually trustworthy? Or if I push hard enough, is the wall crumbling? And if that happens, they go, see, it's not safe. And one of the biggest things for kids and teens is being able to push against the wall and know that it's not falling. Because they push and they push and they push, and then they hit futility, and then they stop. And futility is huge. And we all need to reach that point of futility. But a lot of these teens, they've never had that opportunity of reaching futility and then being able to relax. Instead, they push, it falls, they have to stay guarded. Because now in their little world, they are now the strongest thing in the room. Yeah.
What is an example, like an actual example of that wall crumbling? I think there's a little bit of nuance in that, right? Like what that actual crumble can look like in a real life situation.
Yeah, and it can look, for younger kids in particular, it's tears. It's for teens, it can be anger and storming off, but then coming back, and now they're doing what they're supposed to do. Or yeah,
I've found in the years of teaching, I almost get to that point. I have to bring the kid to tears. Mm-hmm. And once that's done, then things are good. And a lot of times people don't want to go to that level where it's emotionally charged and all that. But then they come back and then they're there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people stop before you get to the tears. They compensate for what they're doing. And say, oh, everything will be. No, you have to sometimes hit it head on, and it's tough sometimes. But after that, it's like everything changes. Like some of the kids that have had the most tough times with, once they've got to that level of crying, so that everything changes.
Yeah.
And it's, because they knew I was going to stick to my guns, and I wasn't going to move, and I was, and I think to myself, well, if I let anybody get away with anything in the classroom, I'm dead. They're gonna take over and do what they need to do, and it's there's a real, and I see that in lots of classrooms where kids are allowed to do whatever, and it's frustrating for me now as a sub after having taught for 30 years. Now I'm seeing this is not right, and there's a lot of younger teachers that really don't know how to do boundaries, and all that kind of stuff. Which is
we saw this with Rowena. I'm gonna pick on you because Rowena works well with Emily. And Emily takes too long in the shower. And even when Emily did open the door and was on her way out, she left it in a mess. And Rowena was on her case and said, you have to clean up the mess. And you knew Emily was done. Like Emily was angry. She was already upset she had to leave earlier than she wanted to. But Rowena forced her to clean up a little bit, even though she was upset. That's I think what the wall is. It's if Rowena had backed down with Emily's anger, that would have been the wall falling down. What's that?
It was very messy.
Yeah. That would have been an example of the wall falling down. And what? To be quite honest, the first few years working here, we were much more lenient than we are now. As a staff, we were quite. I mean, yeah. And I think we wanted to be compassionate and so on and so on, but I think we could have been a lot tougher looking back on those few first few years.
Tough love.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
It's tough love.
Yeah.
You're loving on them,
Yeah.
but you're not letting them get away.
You're not helping them at all.
They're not accountable.
Yeah, Harley?
I wonder if there is some kind of emotional transaction by getting, some kind of vulnerability from a volunteer or a staff when those boundaries are pushed. Where it's like, actually I can be in control of you and I can get what I want, rather than, and kind of making that visually that youth or volunteer come down to where they are, where the youth is feeling constantly emotionally vulnerable and constantly, in this like weaker emotional state. So then breaking down, seeing that wall crumble isn't a good thing, because then, you're basically being in a space where they're like, oh, well, see, you can crumble too, and and they're made to feel weak for that, right? But it's not a weakness, but
No.
it's an interesting experience to, like, if you do bend, then having that youth kind of, how they react to that is really interesting.
Isaiah Webb was also very good at that. And Bill would know how to treat Isaiah. You're only allowed a certain amount of drinks of punch. And Bill would reinforce that. And Isaiah hated it.
Yeah, we had an argument.
so,
But that was just sort of one time. He came around, and then it wasn't a problem anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and so and some of this is developmental too, but sometimes teens need the fight, and it's how doing your own inner work so that you can stay present and let them have the fight, because part of it is developmental, because anybody who's raised teenagers or 2-year-olds knows that this is part of their growing up. And they're probably craving intimacy and craving closeness, but that is freaking scary. They don't want to go there. That is incredibly vulnerable. But their nervous system, their subconscious, gets that same feeling of intimacy from a fight. Because now you're this. And that eye to eye, even if it's in a fight internally, it's intimacy. It's connection. Somebody is paying attention to me. And their fight might actually be, I am craving somebody to just notice me. And so sometimes somebody will come in and they will pick fights. because they're actually craving the connection, and coming at it in a softer way is just way too vulnerable. And so that's where, again, knowing yourself and knowing how do I navigate this. Part of the goal in relationships or in relational interactions is to try and stay a calm, non-anxious presence. You are not going to do that all the time. That is heaven. But that is what we work towards. We allow the Holy Spirit in us to do the work in us so that as much as possible, my identity, my stuff doesn't change depending on who or what walks in the door. I can stay calm even though this kid is pushing my last nerve, and they know how to find it. Traumatized kids, for some reason, have special intuition about how to just navigate through all your defenses and poke the one thing that you didn't want them to poke. And so knowing that, but also going, okay, how can I, in this situation, remain the calm, non-anxious presence and let them do what they need to do? But also, by staying calm and non-anxious, I can communicate love and security, and I'm not going anywhere. You're allowed, and helping them through their emotional whatever they need to do. And the biggest piece of that is, again, being aware of at what point will they say something where I lose my mind and I flip into reaction. So if I can stay responding, and that's where, again, it comes back to that team. Because if you're noticing that, you have to make a kid do something and you're like, I'm tapping out, this is not going to go well if I have to do this for 5 more minutes. And knowing what you need and how you guys can work as a team so that as a whole staff, you can remain, and volunteers remain, that calm, non-anxious presence in the center, even if you individually are struggling in that moment. Because you will. And so knowing that you will and having a plan is going to be really, really helpful. And part of that is prevention. So have the plan for yourself, but also recognizing that there are ways of interacting with people that trigger their counter will. If you say, pick that up right now, the instant reaction is, no, you can't make me. Like it's, and it doesn't matter who it is, but that goes even huger if somebody has a difficult background. So finding ways of avoiding that counter will right from the start, so you don't even have to go there. And one of the ways that I have found works really well, and it works for me, for other relationships too, is really simple, and I found it helps particularly kids and youth that need things very clear. They need to know their options. Again, it comes back to they've been told their whole lives, go here, sleep there, this is now your new person that's in charge of you, and they haven't been able to be in charge of their own bodies. And so the feeling of losing choice is really huge. So to avoid the conflict in the first place can be really, really helpful. So one of the things my dad used to say was, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You get to choose. And I can do either one. And I will be okay no matter what you choose. But a lot of them, they don't know their choice. They're coming in, they know how to react. They don't know how to pause and think, if I, am told I need to go sweep the leaves, if I do it, then everybody's happy, I'll feel good, and da da da. If I don't, then they're going to get mad at me and tell me to leave, and da da da. They don't go through that process. They come in, depending on what they're feeling, they're told to go do something, and they're going to react to that based on whatever is going on inside. So helping them know the choices is really important. And that comes back to enforcing the boundaries, letting them know what consequences are, and even in the moment, you know, if they're looking like they're not going to do something. So please take your dishes and put them in the kitchen. That's the ask. And they're not doing it. And then you can say, you can come back and do something like, well, I see we've got a choice. I would like it if you would take that to the kitchen because, and then you can explain why. Because it makes it easier on the rest of the staff. It's helpful, you know, and you get to contribute. But you don't have to. And if you don't, this is what's going to happen. The choice is yours. So again, you're not trying to force them to do something. You're telling them, this is what we would love to happen. But you don't have to. But if you don't, then this is what's going to happen. And maybe they can't come to the center for a week. I don't know your structures or whatever. But sometimes just that pause before it gets triggering their counter will and then they get defensive, it gives them the space to step back and helps them feel empowered. Because now they're in charge of their choice. And if they don't want to take it, they don't have to. But if you're going to take it for them, then this is what that means for them. And you can do that very calmly. And again, these are your options. How is this rolling out today? And a lot of times I find something just as simple as this helps to prevent the conflicts, the more intense conflicts. So when it comes to some of these challenges, again, know yourself, make your own plan. Know what you need. And again, know what helps you self-regulate, what helps you stay calm, what helps you. And the best self-regulation technique is the one that works for you. So there's tons of them out there. Whatever you need to do, whether it's deep breathing, grounding, praying, know your thing and how you need to do that. The other thing is that, again, it comes back to you're a team. You can co-regulate. You can look at somebody and my temperature might be rising, but then I look over and I go, Darren's got this. I can relax because I know he's got this. Or another staff member. And so then you can actually co-regulate each other so that as a team, you're coming back to that calm, not anxious presence, which is the atmosphere you probably want in the place. And as I said before, you're not always going to be there, but as a team, hopefully you can help each other create the feeling in the space. So if you know that there are particular teams that come and you know that you have to follow through on something, make a plan. What are your options? If they come in and go this direction, then what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Who am I going to call? Because in that helps you stay regulated. When you know, if they go this direction, I do this. If they go that direction, I do that. That can really, really be helpful. And if you need to brainstorm around I'm sure you guys do this around certain youth, then your own vulnerability around, I really struggle with this person, they push all my buttons, and I'm going to do as much as I can and be kind, but does anybody here connect well with them and they don't push any of their buttons? Or it being able to allow your compassion to show through how you relate with each other, how you're able to enforce boundaries and be compassionate and be consistent and be full of grace, because you're not going to do this well all the time, every day. And which again is modeling it's okay to mess up, because there's grace. And when I mess up, I've got a choice. I can move towards forgiveness and learning and growth, or I can spiral into shame and all kinds of my negative self-coping strategies. And so even in your mistakes in here, you're modeling something different, and which is huge. And so as you have grace for each other, for yourselves, you're creating that open, non-anxious space, because again, if you're not afraid of making the mistake, then they notice that, because they watch how you respond. They see how all of this works out, and is this a safe place to make a different choice. So that's it. I was hoping to have time to workshop some examples, but yeah, we're at 11:25, so I don't want to push it.
Make a statement.
Yeah.
It's the business of truth. So we as Christians know what the truth is, and the truth doesn't change. In the world, everybody has their own truth. It could be culture, religion, or any other activity. And those truths move all the time. And so there's a big competition about what is the truth in society, cultures. It's very difficult. It's very good at Darren doing the Faith Fridays, because he's trying to get people back to the truth. Because they all have their own ideas what truth is.
I really liked, on that note, I kind of like on that note, but I really liked what you said about ethics. We've been trying to hammer hard with the ethics of hurting each other are. We had an incident where a kid punched and kicked another kid because of rumors that the victim in this case was coming on to the girlfriend of the perpetrator. And so there's been a little bit of disagreement among the youth as to who is wrong and who is right in that situation. And I really like what Kenda had to say about ethics. We have a moral compass. Obviously, we think that's wrong to have kicked the guy. And the guy that was kicked has an injury. He had no way of defending himself. He's got 2 injured shoulders from a work accident. And he had no way of defending himself. So, of course, we're coming on the side, and we have the moral compass. But it was fascinating to me that the youth that we work with didn't see it the way we did. There was this the argument I had with Nagori, like he was, no, what Andre did was perfectly justifiable, and in his mind it was totally okay because the other guy needed to learn something, So the moral compass piece was just golden. It was just golden. Like there's just what works for them is their moral compass.
And I see that often in the hospital and whatever.
Yeah.
If people, and this is the hard thing, even being in the classroom, I have to treat different people as in different ways because they're individuals, and kids start to clue into that. And that's why I really have to, toe the line with certain things. And my expectation, we have a fellow who's lived with us for 30 years now, autism. And when he came into our house, extremely violent, punching holes out the walls and all that kind of stuff. But we had expectations. We worked 2 years with him, and he's been with us 30 years, and we took him to France this summer and traveled all around with him. But if he gets into that state of anxiety and stress, he will lose it and come after whoever he's come after. But you know, at the same time, he knows what the expectations are from us. And he behaves, and then my attitude towards doesn't matter what kind of disability anybody has, you can behave yourself properly. If you have high expectations,
Yeah.
you can behave yourself
Yeah.
no matter who you are.
Mhm.
But we've lowered our expectations in this world so low. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, to whoever you want.
Mhm.
And then, like you're saying about the whole moral thought, I can go punch anybody in the head whenever I want. Nothing's going to happen to me.
Yeah, but in this case, it was they're justifying it
Oh yeah,
because
because of
this
the
guy needed to learn
Yeah.
that he shouldn't be
doing that.
too
Yeah,
friendly
they're
with.
trying to.
you know what I mean?
Everybody wants justice in this world. We all
Yeah.
want justice,
Yes.
but we want it on our own terms.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the other thing that I learned with neurodivergent youth and addiction and things like that is they love the black and white
Totally.
because that's where their brain works. So nuanced things, deeper concepts, their brain actually can't grab onto it, and it doesn't make sense to them. And so even like with my son, we learned that applied knowledge, there is none. So don't please put your dishes in the dishwasher, but you didn't say cups. Oh, do I really have to say cups, cutlery, plates? But it's like they and that's just his brain. And I can be frustrated, I can be angry, I could yell. It's not going to matter. That's how his brain works. And understanding the brain function and going, okay, this is my issue, not his. How can I navigate this so that he actually understands what I want? And for the first number of years, that's really tricky because when you're just meeting a youth, they're going to have all their guards up. And they're going to be posturing and they're going to be protected and they're going to be all kinds of things. And so navigating that is going to be tricky and you're going to hit all kinds of minefields. But as you build relationship, and I don't know what you guys understand about attachment, but they probably don't, their attachment style is going to be completely disorganized, untrusting, and self-protecting. And so to expect deep heart connection kind of things, if it happens, amazing. But even that probably is working for them in some way. It's and so how they interact with people who don't have the same challenges, like you discovered there, their mindset in this is going to be different than your mindset. They're going to suddenly do something and you're like, oh my goodness, that was so extremely hurtful. How could they? But they didn't know that it would hurt you and they didn't really care. And to them, that's not part of their world or what's important. And that's just where they're at. And that's okay. Because your identity, your self-esteem, your sense of purpose isn't dependent on them liking you or reciprocating, or feeling connected. That's our need. And creating space for them to not care about you only except when they need something, and understanding that is caring for them, that is probably the most love they've felt for anybody or connection. And so take it for what it is, but then don't be surprised if they turn around and then do something that just blows your mind, because to them it's a different way of seeing the world.
Lily was like that. Lily would come here. She wouldn't interact with too many people. She liked the space. Thank you, Kenda.
Yeah.
She liked the space. She would sit down, even sometimes on the cement floor, put all her stuff out, sort it, do what she needed, put the locker, she'd put things back, all this stuff. And then she'd put it all tidy back together. And and then she'd leave and get some bus tickets on the way out the door, and you thought, well, did I do anything? You know, and it's like you want that reciprocation. You want, because she's a lovely gal. It's fun. This fascinating gal. It'd be fun to get to know her more and everything. But she is very guarded too. So you ask her if she wants anything to eat. Yeah, she was asked. She wanted ice cream. Didn't she like ice cream? And you'd bring her ice cream. And she'd sit there, and it would just melt. She wouldn't eat it. It would just melt. She was just saying yes to ice cream because what she wanted or she liked. She wasn't necessarily going to eat it.
She just ordered food and touch
Yeah,
it.
but she's doing that to operate in a space, to make us comfortable with her being here, maybe. There's all kinds of those things going on with her. Eventually, however, as she got older, she got more stable housing, she began to open up a little bit more. So that takes time. But a very good example, was Lily.
And the other thing to remember is that the youth you have coming here are probably needing their survival strategy still. They're not in recovery getting, like, they're not further up where they're getting all kinds of help necessarily. So to try and take away their coping strategies without them having the healthy support, if their trauma is still happening, they need their survival strategies. And so, and that's where, again, discernment, walking with them, helping them to start craving something different. But for some of them, as long as they're in the trauma, they need their unhealthy coping strategies because it's helping them survive. And so before they can deal with the trauma, they need safety. And so you may not see the results of that here, because it sounds like a lot of the work you do is a lot of first steps where they're still guarded. They might be starting to look for help. They might be starting something, but they're not through they're not in safety yet. They're still on their way there. So,
and I think too that, like, a number of years ago, we surveyed here at the center what was the most important value here, and safety came across as the number one value. So
yeah,
when we talk about Lily doing her thing, she felt safe and comfortable. And I think that's what the youth. That's why the youth are here.
yeah.
You mentioned, though, coming up with our own knowing ourselves and coming up with our personal game plan of how we respond to certain youth in certain situations. And we might not have the opportunity to caucus like staff are here every day, well, Wednesday through Sunday.
Yeah.
As volunteers, we're just here like maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. So it's almost valuable to caucus. That's why I think showing up, for example, the 15 minutes or the half an hour before your volunteer time, it's valuable in the sense that you can be debriefed by staff of what's going on, or you can share with Darren, maybe even before that, I'm having a problem dealing with this situation this way or this youth. And then using that as a step to bringing other staff, other volunteers around you to support you in those situations.
Yeah.
So how that manifests itself, whether it's caucusing before or after the shift, or maybe on a separate occasion with staff and
yeah.
I think what Kenda's provided today is a lot of food for thought. It's actually going to mean probably meeting again.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to go over the tape, and maybe you could share your notes. But I really think this has been constructive, and just want to say thank you, Kenda, for
my pleasure.
today.
Whether people are dealing with it, whether a staff one-on-one or volunteers are watching it happen or dealing with it, I think this is so helpful, like for all our lives, whether we have kids or grandkids or people in our lives, keeping this I really think it's hard. We don't want to be a tough person sometimes, but I think as we see it as love and it's done with compassion is so important, and it's been really helpful. I want to let you guys get out for the day. You've been really amazing coming here so early on a Saturday. Appreciate it. So thanks to all of you, and a couple of you we'll see later on. And thanks again.
Yeah, my
Thank you.
pleasure.